The dust devils danced across the crystal wastes like ghosts made of sand. And light, Owen Blake wiped sweat from his forehead and adjusted the heavy pack on his shoulders. 5 years of making this journey, and the twin sons of Draven 7 still felt like they wanted to cook him alive. Most people thought he was crazy. The human colonists whispered about him. In the settlement cafeteria, the Sarathi, the dragon-like natives of this world, avoided him entirely. Nobody understood why a perfectly sane xenobiologist would spend his free time hiking 20 km into the wasteland just to visit an outcast, but Owen knew exactly why. Between two massive crystal formations that jutted from the ground like frozen lightning, he spotted the cave entrance. His pace quickened despite his tired legs. The mouth of the cave was large enough to swallow a transport vehicle, its edges worn smooth by centuries of wind. Silver, Owen called out, his voice echoing against the crystal walls. I brought the good stuff this time, real earth chocolate. Don't tell me you've developed a taste for it just to humor me. Silence answered him. Owen's stomach tightened. Silver always greeted him before he even reached the cave. Her hearing was sharp enough to catch his footsteps from half a kilometer away. He moved deeper into the cave, his eyes adjusting to the dimness. The interior was surprisingly cool, a relief from the brutal heat. Outside, Silver had arranged the space over decades, maybe centuries. Smooth stones formed a natural bed, a small pool of water collected in one corner from an underground spring. Books donated by Owen over the years sat in careful stacks against one wall. Then he saw her. Silver scale lay curled in the back of the cave, her massive body tucked in on itself. Her scales, pure white like fresh snow, seemed dull in the shadows. She was easily 15 m from nose to tail, with wings folded tight against her sides. Even at rest she should have been magnificent. Instead, she looked small, fragile. Silver, Owen dropped his pack and ran to her side. One golden eye opened slowly. It took her a moment to focus on him. Owen, her voice rumbled like distant thunder, but weaker than he had ever heard it. You should not have come today. What happened? He placed his hand on her forehead, feeling the heat radiating from her scales. Fever. How long have you been like this? It does not matter. She tried to lift her head and failed. The effort left her breathing hard. Please go back to your settlement. I do not want you to see me this way. Owen was already pulling medical equipment from his pack, a portable scanner, the kind used for preliminary diagnoses on both humans and compatible alien species. His hands shook as he powered it on. You know I'm not leaving, he said quietly. We've been through this before. 5 years ago he had found her trapped under fallen rocks after a quake. She had been there for 2 days, slowly dying. The Sarathi Council had refused to help her. They considered her cursed, an aberration to be ignored. Owen had spent 3 days digging her out by hand, then another week treating her injuries. She had called him foolish. Then, now she just watched him with that golden eye, too tired to argue. The scanner beeped as it processed information. Owen stared at the readout, his medical training wearing with hope. The results made his blood run cold. Thornspine parasites. The infection was everywhere, concentrated in the neural clusters along her spine and at the base of her skull. The scanner estimated hundreds of individual parasites, each one burrowing deeper into her nervous system. How long? Owen asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 3 weeks since I first felt the pain. Silver's eye closed. Again, I know what it is. Every Sarathi knows there is no cure. I have perhaps 1 week left, maybe 2 if I am unlucky. Owen had read about thornspine parasites in the colony database, native to Draven 7. They were considered the most feared disease on the planet. Once they infected a Sarathi, death was certain. The parasites formed crystalline structures around nerve endings, causing agony that increased until the host's body simply gave out. No Sarathi had ever survived an infection, not one in recorded history. We can get you treatment, Owen said. Even though he knew the truth, the colony has doctors and we can contact the Galactic Medical Authority. There has to be something. There is nothing. Silver's voice was patient, accepting. I have lived 347 years, Owen. That is more than most of my kind ever see. I am not afraid of death. Well, I am. Owen stood up, his jaw set. I'm going to the council. They have medical facilities, healers who know Sarathi biology better than any human doctor. They will not help me. You know this. Then I'll make them help you. Silver managed a weak rumble that might have been a laugh. Stubborn human, just like the day we met. Owen remembered that day clearly. He had been studying crystal formations when a canyon flash flood caught him by surprise. The water had swept him off his feet, carrying him toward a 100-meter drop. Then massive claws had plucked him from the torrent. Gentle, despite their size, Silver had carried him to safety, staying with him until the water receded. She had never explained why she saved him. Perhaps she saw something of herself in the lonely scientist that everyone else avoided. I'll be back tomorrow, Owen promised. With help, Owen, her eye opened again, and for a moment he saw the fierce intelligence that had sustained her through centuries of isolation. Thank you for these years, for treating me as if I mattered. You do matter. He touched her scales one more time. You matter to me. The walk back to the colony took 3 hours. Every step felt heavy. By the time Owen reached the Sarathi Council chamber, the suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. High-speaker Crimson Wing sat on his elevated platform, his red scales gleaming in the artificial light around him. 6 other council members watched Owen approach with cold reptilian eyes. I request medical assistance for Silver. Scale, Owen said formally. She has been infected with thornspine parasites and requires immediate treatment. Crimson Wing's expression did not change. The outcast is not our concern. She's dying. All creatures die, human. It is the way of nature. Owen felt anger rising in his chest. You have the medical knowledge to help her, the equipment, the healers. All I'm asking is that you try. We will not waste our resources on an aberration. Crimson Wing leaned forward. Her existence has always been unnatural. Perhaps this is how it should end, the other council members murmured. Agreement. Owen looked at each of them, in turn seeing nothing but indifference. These were Silver's people, her own kind, and they would let her die in agony without a second thought. Then, damn you all, Owen said quietly. He turned and walked out of the council chamber. Behind him he heard Crimson Wing's voice, cold and final. Do not return here on this matter, human. Our decision stands. That night Owen sat in his quarters, staring at his computer screen. Dr. High Reed had been sympathetic when he explained the situation. But she had been honest too. Human medicine knew almost nothing about Sarathi physiology, even if they wanted to help. They had no idea where to start. Galactic Medical Authority database confirmed what he already knew. Thornspine parasites were considered incurable. Every xenobiologist in known space had studied them at some point. None had found a solution. Owen pulled up his personal file, scrolling through years of research notes and case studies. From his time as a veterinary student on Earth, he had specialized in large reptiles before switching to xenobiology. Somewhere in all that old data, there had to be something useful. His eyes burned from staring at the screen. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he kept searching, driven by desperation and something deeper. Something that felt like love. Silver had saved his life once. She had given him friendship when he had none. She had listened to his stories about Earth, about the mother he lost when he was 12, about all the ways he had never quite fit in with his own species. She was his family, the only family he had left. Owen would not let her die alone in that cave. He would not accept the council's cruelty or the universe's indifference. There had to be a way, and if there was not, he would invent one. 3 days had passed since Owen last slept properly. His quarters looked like a disaster zone with empty food containers scattered across the floor and medical journals displayed on every available screen. Dr. Reed had stopped by twice to check on him, bringing coffee and concern in equal measure. You need rest, she had said that morning, looking at the dark circles under his eyes. I need answers, Owen had replied. Now as the colony's artificial lights dimmed to simulate nighttime, Owen finally found something worth his attention. An old case study from Earth dated almost 60 years ago, before humanity had even made first contact with alien life. A species of large monitor lizard on Madagascar had suffered from a parasitic infection that bore striking similarities to thornspine parasites. The parasites had burrowed into neural tissue, forming crystalline structures around nerve endings. The infection had been considered fatal until one veterinarian tried something radical. Owen's heart raced as he read the treatment protocol. It was based on a modified version of an antiparasitic compound combined with neural stabilizers to prevent shock. The treatment had required direct injection into the affected neural clusters. It had been dangerous, painful, and had only a 40% success rate, but 40% was better than zero. Computer, pull up the molecular structure of that compound, Owen said aloud. Compare it to known substances in the Draven 7 chemical database. The computer processed for several seconds, then it displayed a series of molecular diagrams that made Owen lean forward in his chair. The base compounds existed on Draven 7. They were rare, used in some industrial processes, but they existed, with modifications accounting for Sarathi biology instead of Earth reptiles. He might be able to synthesize something similar. It was a long shot. It might not work at all. It might even kill Silver faster than the parasites would, but it was a chance. Owen started making notes, calculating dosages, running simulations on the computer. He pulled up everything he could find about Sarathi neural physiology. The species was remarkably similar to Earth's large reptiles in some ways, different in others. Their nervous system operated at higher temperatures. Their pain Tolerance was lower despite their size. Their cellular regeneration was faster, which might help or might complicate things. Dawn came without Owen noticing. He was deep in equations when Dr. Reed entered his quarters without knocking. "Owen, you look terrible." She set down a tray of breakfast. "Please tell me you found something, because I'm starting to worry about you as much as I am about Silver." "I found something." Owen turned his screen toward her. "It's never been tested on extraterrestrial life. It might not work, but it's the only option I've got." Reed studied the data, her expression shifting from concern to concentration. She was a good doctor, better than most who ended up in frontier colonies. She had left a prestigious hospital on Mars for reasons she never discussed, and Owen had never asked. "This is insane," she said after a long moment. "The pain alone could kill her, and if the dosage is wrong, you destroy her nervous system before the parasites do." "No, you could be prosecuted for experimenting on an intelligent being without proper authorization." "I know that too." Reed was quiet for a moment, then she closed the door behind her and sat down at Owen's workstation. "Show me your calculations. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." Relief washed over Owen. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We have a lot of work to do." They spent the next 12 hours refining the treatment. Reed's medical expertise filled in gaps that Owen's veterinary background had left open. Together they designed a 3-stage protocol. The first stage would target the parasites near the surface. The second would go deeper into the major neural clusters. The third would be a full systemic treatment to eliminate any remaining parasites and help Silver's body heal. Each stage would take 24 hours. Silver would need to survive 72 hours of treatment, and every moment would be agony. "We need to test this," Reed said finally, "on the parasites themselves outside a host. If it doesn't kill them in the lab, it won't work in her body." Owen already had parasite samples. He had collected them from infected tissue found in the wasteland, carefully preserved for study. Now those samples would serve a different purpose. The test took another full day. Owen watched through a microscope as the modified compound encountered living parasites. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. Then the parasites began to break down. The crystalline structures they formed started to crack and dissolve. Within an hour, every parasite in the sample was dead. "It works." Owen breathed. "At least in isolation." "In isolation," Reed emphasized. "Inside a living Sorothy is completely different. Her immune system, her metabolism, everything will affect how this works. I have to try." Reed looked at him carefully. "She's that important to you?" Owen thought about Silver in that cave, suffering alone because her own kind had abandoned her. He thought about the gentle way she had held him after saving him from the flood, careful not to let her claws pierce his skin. He thought about long conversations under the stars, her teaching him about the history of her world, him telling her stories about Earth. "She's my family," Owen said simply. Reed nodded. "Then let's make sure we give her the best chance possible." They synthesized enough of the compound for all 3 stages of treatment. Owen packed everything carefully into insulated containers. Medical equipment, monitoring devices, IV fluids, pain medication, everything he might need for 3 days of intensive care. "I'm coming with you," Reed announced. "You don't have to do that. Actually, I You're going to need help and you're probably too exhausted to see straight by now. She grabbed her own medical kit. Besides, I want to meet this dragon who's worth all this trouble. The journey to the crystal waste has felt longer than usual. Owen's pack was heavier, loaded with equipment and medication. Reed kept pace beside him, not complaining despite the heat. As they approached Silver's cave, Owen's steps slowed. Fear crept up his spine. What if they were too late? What if she had already died while he was busy playing scientist? Silver, he called out. For a terrible moment there was no answer. Then a weak voice reached them from the darkness. Owen, you came back. She was worse than before. Her breathing was labored, and even in the dim light, Owen could see tremors running through her body. The parasites were spreading faster now, reaching the final stages of infection. I brought help, Owen said, kneeling beside her massive head. This is Dr. Reed, and I brought something else, a treatment. Silver's golden eye focused on him with difficulty. There is no treatment. There wasn't, Owen corrected, but I found something. It's from Earth, from old veterinary medicine. I've modified it for your biology. Earth medicine. A hint of curiosity entered Silver's voice, cutting through the pain. You would treat me like one of your animals. I would treat you like family, Owen said firmly. That's what you are to me. Silver was quiet for a long moment. Owen could see her thinking, weighing her options. She had accepted death already. Now he was offering her hope, which might be crueler than letting her go peacefully. Will it hurt? She asked. Finally, Owen would not lie to her. Yes, more than the parasites already do. The treatment has to reach deep into your nervous system. It's going to be the worst pain you've ever felt, and if it fails, then you die anyway, but at least you die knowing someone tried. Silver closed her eye. Her breathing was shallow, each breath seeming to cost her tremendous effort. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. I have lived alone for so long, outcast, unwanted. When I saved you from that flood, I thought perhaps fate was giving me one small kindness before the end. Someone who did not see me as cursed. She opened her eye again. You have given me far more than I ever expected. These years of friendship, of being seen as worthy. Whatever happens now, I am grateful. Don't talk like you're saying goodbye, Owen said, unpacking his equipment. We're just getting started. Reed was already setting up monitoring equipment, working efficiently despite the alien environment. She had dealt with stranger situations in her career, though perhaps not stranger patients. Owen prepared the first injection. His hands were steady now, all doubt burned away by necessity. This was what he was trained for. This was what he could do. Ready? He asked Silver. No, she admitted, but do it anyway. Owen positioned the injection device against the scales at the base of her skull, where the first major cluster of parasites had formed. The device would drive the compound deep into the neural tissue, directly to where it needed to be. I'm sorry for what comes next, he said quietly. Then he triggered the injection. Silver's scream shook the walls of the cave. The sound that came from Silver was something Owen would never forget. It was not quite a roar, not quite a shriek. It was raw agony, given voice, echoing off the crystal formations outside the cave and rolling across the wasteland like thunder. Her body convulsed. The massive tail whipped sideways, smashing against the cave wall, hard enough to send crack spider webbing. Through the stone, Reed dove out of the way, dragging equipment with her. Hold. Her stable, Reed shouted over the noise. The monitors are going crazy. Owen pressed himself against Silver's neck, trying to provide some comfort through touch. It was useless, he knew. Nothing could make this easier. The compound was flooding through her neural tissue, killing parasites and inflaming every nerve ending it touched. I'm here, he said, even though he doubted she could hear him. I'm not leaving, I promise. The convulsions lasted for 10 minutes. That felt like hours. Then gradually, Silver's body began to still. Her breathing was ragged, but the screaming had stopped. Small mercies, Reed checked the monitors. Neural activity is stabilizing. Heart rate is elevated but steady. The compound is spreading through the first cluster zone. Owen pulled up the portable scanner and ran it over Silver's spine. The image that appeared made his breath catch. In the area where he had injected the compound, the parasites were dying. He could see their crystalline structures breaking down, dissolving into material that Silver's body could process and eliminate. It's working, he whispered. It's actually working, but there were dozens of other clusters throughout her body. Each one would require the same treatment. Each one would bring the same pain. Silver's eye cracked open. Her pupil was dilated, her focus uncertain. Owen, I'm here. That was unpleasant. Despite everything, Owen laughed. It came out shaky, on the edge of hysteria. That's one way to put it. Will the next one be worse? Probably. Owen stroked her scales gently. The next clusters are deeper, closer to your spine and brain. But we have pain medication that might help a little. Might, Silver repeated. She tried to lift her head and managed it this time, just barely. Human medicine is very uncertain. Welcome to experimental treatment, Reed said, coming closer now that the danger of being crushed had passed. She held out a scanning device. I'm Dr. High. Reed, sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. Silver studied her with one golden eye. You are helping Owen attempt the impossible. Someone has to keep him from killing himself with exhaustion, Reed replied. She ran her scanner along Silver's. Your basic physiology is fascinating. Heart rate is slower than I expected for a creature your size. Temperature regulation is different from Earth. Reptiles, too, gets excited about biology, Owen explained, even in crisis situations, especially in crisis situations. Red corrected. She made notes on her data pad. Oh, and we need to wait at least 6 hours before the next injection. Her system needs time to process what we've already introduced. 6 hours, Owen set a timer and settled in. He had brought supplies for a long stay. Food, water, basic camping equipment. Reed had done the same, prepared for the possibility that they might be here for days. Silver watched them unpack. You brought sleeping gear. We're not leaving you alone through this, Owen said. Every injection needs to be monitored. Besides, I told you family doesn't abandon family. Something changed in Silver's expression. Owen had learned to read her body language over the years. Subtle as it was, this was emotion she rarely showed. Vulnerability, hope. My own kind would not do this, she said quietly. They would let me die without a second thought. Then your kind are fools, Reed said bluntly. She had set up a small camp stove and was heating water for coffee. Intelligence is supposed to be accompanied by compassion. Any species that forgets that is doomed. Silver made a sound that might have been agreement. Humans are strange creatures. You have been in the galaxy for such a short time, yet you do things that older species would never consider, like trying to cure the incurable. Owen asked, like caring. Silver shifted slightly, trying to find a more comfortable position. The Sarathi have been spacefaring for 3,000 years. We have treaties with a dozen species. We consider ourselves enlightened, yet we exile our own for being different. We let our elders die alone if they are deemed unworthy. We value tradition over kindness. Not all Sarathi think that way, Owen said. I've seen young ones questioning the council's decisions. Perhaps, but change comes slowly to my people. Silver's eye closed again, exhaustion catching up with her. Wake me when it is time for more pain. Owen and Reed took turns monitoring her vital signs while she slept. The cave was quiet except for Silver's breathing and the occasional beep from medical equipment. Outside, the suns crossed the sky, painting shadows that crept across the cave floor. Reed made simple meals from their supplies. Owen forced himself to eat, knowing he needed the energy. Between checks on Silver, he reviewed the treatment plan for the 100th time, looking for anything he might have missed. You really love her, Reed observed during one of these reviews. Owen looked up from his data pad. Is that so strange? No, just rare. Reed stirred her instant noodles thoughtfully. Most xenobiologists maintain professional distance from their subjects. You threw that out the window. She's not a subject. She never was. Owen glanced at Silver's sleeping form. When I first came to Draven 7, I was running from Earth, from memories of my mother dying, from feeling like I never quite belonged anywhere. Then I found Silver, and she was running too, from her own people, from their judgment. We understood each other. Your mother, Reed said carefully. Owen, you know Silver can't replace her. I know, but that's not what this is. Owen searched for the right words. My mother taught me that family is about showing up, being present when it matters. She showed up for me every day until cancer took her. Now I'm showing up for Silver. Reed nodded slowly. That's a good way to honor her memory. The timer chimed. 6 hours had passed. Owen stood up, his muscles stiff from sitting. Time for the second injection. Silver, he said gently, touching her shoulder. We need to continue. She woke immediately, more alert now than before. The pain medication and rest had helped. So soon we can't let the parasites regroup. The next cluster's along your spine, about halfway down. Silver pulled herself into a better position, exposing her back. The scales there were pure white, unmarked by any pattern. Beautiful and cursed according to Sarathi tradition. Owen prepared the injection. This one would be deeper, harder to place correctly. He checked and rechecked the scanner readings too. Make sure he had the right spot. Ready? He asked. I was not ready the first time either, Silver said, but I trust you. Those words hit Owen harder than he expected. Trust. She was giving him everything, her life in his hands, based on nothing but faith in his intentions. He could not fail her. The second injection went into the neural cluster along her spine. Owen watched the compound flow through the injection device, seeing it disappear into Silver's body. For a moment there was nothing. Then Silver's entire body went rigid. This time she did not scream. Pain was too intense for that. Her claws dug into the stone floor of the cave, gouging deep furrows. Her wings, which had been folded tight, spasmomed outward, nearly hitting Reed. Neural shock, Reed called out, reading the monitors. Her brain is being overwhelmed by pain signals. Owen had prepared for this. He grabbed a second injector, this one loaded with a powerful neural blocker. It would not eliminate the pain, but it might take the edge off. Enough for Silver to survive it. He administered it directly into the soft tissue under her jaw, where it would reach her brain fastest. For a terrible moment, nothing changed. Then Silver's body began to relax slightly. Her breathing, which had nearly stopped, resumed in great gasping lungfuls. Her claws released their death grip on the stone. "Still here," she managed to say, her voice raw. "Still alive." "You're doing great," Owen lied. She was barely holding on, and they both knew it, but sometimes lies were kinder than truth. The scanner showed more parasites dying. The second cluster was being destroyed, just like the first, but the cost was enormous. Silver's body was taking damage from the treatment itself, stress, fractures in her neural pathways, inflammation in her tissues. Reed met Owen's eyes across Silver's body. Her expression said what he was thinking. This might work, but it might also destroy her nervous system. In the process, they were racing against time, trying to kill the parasites before the cure killed the patient. Owen, Silver said weakly, "If I do not survive this, I want you to know something. Don't talk like that. Save your strength. Listen." She turned her head to look at him directly. "These 5 years with you have been worth the 300 years before them. You gave me something I thought I had lost forever, purpose, worth a reason to wake each morning." "Silver, please, I'm not afraid anymore," she continued. "Whatever happens, I am grateful. You are the best son I never had." Owen felt tears on his face. He did not remember starting to cry. "And you're the best mother I could have asked for. So you need to survive this, because I'm not ready to lose another mother. I'm not ready to be alone again." Silver closed her eye. "Then I will try very hard not to disappoint you." The next 24 hours were the hardest of Owen's life. He and Reed took turns monitoring Silver, adjusting medications, providing what comfort they could. The parasites in the second cluster died slowly, and each death caused more pain, but Silver held on through pain that should have killed her, through neural stress that would have destroyed a weaker mind. She held on because Owen had asked her to, because she had found something worth living for. As the suns rose on the second day, Owen checked the scanner one more time. The second cluster was clear. 2 down, dozens more to go. They were not done yet, not even close, but they were still fighting, still hoping, and sometimes that was enough. News traveled fast in a frontier colony. By the 3rd day of Owen's absence, people were talking. The human settlers whispered corridors about their strain. Xenobiologists who had vanished into the wasteland. The Sarathi heard rumors through their own networks, carried on wings from settlement to settlement. Owen knew none of this. His world had shrunk to the interior of a cave, to the steady rhythm of medical monitoring, to Silver's labored breathing. She was deteriorating, not from the parasites, which were dying in every cluster he treated, but from the treatment itself. Her body was strong, but it had limits. The compound was harsh, designed to destroy parasites that had evolved to resist every natural defense. It damaged healthy tissue too, Temperatures spiking again, Reed said, checking the monitors. Her voice was hoarse from lack of sleep. They had both been running on stimulants and willpower for days. 107 degrees. That's high even for Sarathi physiology. Owen pressed a cooling pack against silver scales. She was barely conscious, now drifting in and out of awareness. When she was lucid, she was in too much pain to speak. When she was not, her body twitched and shuddered with fever. Dreams, the third injection is due in 2 hours, Owen said. He did not need to check the timer. He had memorized the schedule. That one targets the clusters near her brain. It's the most dangerous. Owen. Reed put down her data pad and looked at him directly. We need to talk about the possibility that this won't work. It's working. The parasites are dying. The parasites are dying, but so is she. Reed gestured at the monitors, at the vital signs that were slowly weakening. Her nervous system is taking massive damage. Even if we kill every parasite, she might not recover. She might never wake up. Then we make sure she does wake up. Owen's voice was firm, allowing no doubt. Doubt was the enemy. Now doubt would make his hands shake. When they needed to be steady, Reed was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. All right, but we need more supplies. Pain medication is running low and we're almost out of IV fluids. I'll go back to the colony. Owen said, you stay with her. Owen, you can barely stand. Let me go. No, he was already packing a small bag. If something happens while I'm gone, you're the better doctor. You have a better chance of keeping her alive. Reed wanted to argue. Owen could see it in her face, but she knew he was right. Be fast and be careful. You're no good to Silver if you collapse from exhaustion. On the way, the journey back to the colony was a blur. Owen's legs moved on autopilot, carrying him across the wasteland while his mind stayed in the cave. He kept seeing Silver's face, kept hearing her labored breathing. He was so focused on his thoughts that he almost missed the crowd. The colony's main square was full of people, humans and Sarathi alike, gathered in unusual numbers for the middle of the day. They were facing the direction of the crystal waste, talking in low voices. Owen pushed through the crowd, heading for the medical supply depot. He did not have time for whatever this was. That's him, someone said. That's the human who's treating the outcast. Owen stopped. Slowly he turned to face the crowd. They were all looking at him. Dozens of faces, human and alien alike, watching with expressions he could not quite read. Curiosity, concern, something else. A young Sarathi pushed forward. She was small for her species, her scales a deep green color. Is it true, she asked, are you really trying to cure thornspine parasites? I don't have time for this, Owen said. Please. The young Sarathi moved closer. My brother died from that infection last year. The council said nothing could be done, but you're trying anyway. Owen met her eyes. He saw hope there, desperate, painful hope. I'm trying, he admitted, but I don't know if it will work. No one has ever tried before, the young Sarathi said. That alone is more than my kind would do for someone they consider cursed. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Owen saw several Sarathi nodding, their expressions thoughtful. The humans looked sympathetic, though most of them had probably never given Silver much thought before. Now, you, Owen said, I need to get back to her. I'll help you carry them, the young Sarathi offered. So will I, a human colonist added. Before Owen could protest, half a dozen Volunteers had surrounded him. They followed him to the supply depot, helped him gather everything he needed, packed it efficiently for the journey back. "Why are you helping?" Owen asked as they worked. The young Sarathi, who had introduced herself as Verdant, answered quietly, "Because you are showing my people what they should have been all along. Compassionate, willing to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Your council won't see it that way. The council is old and set in their ways." Verdant secured a pack of medical supplies, "But I am not the only young one who questions their decision. If the outcast survives because a human refused to give up, it will mean something. It will change things." Owen wanted to tell her not to build her hopes on this. Silver might still die. The treatment might fail in the final stages, but looking at Verdant's face, at the faces of the other young Sarathi in the crowd, he kept silent. Sometimes people needed hope more than they needed truth. The group helped him carry supplies back toward the wasteland. They could not go all the way to the cave, not without the council's knowledge becoming public, but they carried the heavy packs for several kilometers, lightening Owen's burden. As they turned back, Verdant touched Owen's arm gently with one claw. "Tell her that some of us care. Tell her she has not forgotten." Owen nodded. He could not trust his voice to speak. The sun was setting when he returned to the cave. Reed looked up from monitoring equipment, relief clear on her face. "Thank the stars, I was getting worried." Owen set down the supplies. "How is she?" "The same. No better, no worse." Reed helped him unpack. "We're at a critical point, Owen. The next injection either saves her or destroys what's left of her neural function. There's no middle ground anymore." Silver's eye opened just slightly. She had been listening. "Then we should proceed." "Silver, you need rest." "I have been resting." Her voice was weak but determined. "The pain is constant whether I sleep or wake. Let us finish this." Owen prepared the third injection with hands that wanted to shake. This was it. The cluster near her brain, the most dangerous parasites in the most dangerous location. Too little of the compound and they would survive. Too much and he would destroy her mind. He had run the calculations 100 times, checked and rechecked the dosage, but calculations meant nothing when faced with living tissue, with the unpredictable complexity of biology. Owen, Silver said, "Look at me." He met her golden eye. "I trust you," she said simply. "Whatever happens, it was my choice. You gave me that choice. Dignity, love. Even if I die now, I die knowing I mattered to someone." "You matter to a lot of people," Owen said. He told her about the crowd, about Verdant and the young Sarathi who were watching and hoping. "You're becoming a symbol of what your species could be." Silver's eye widened slightly. "That is a heavy burden for an outcast to carry." "Good thing you're strong enough to carry it." Owen positioned the injection device. "Ready?" "No, but do it anyway." The injection went deep, deeper than any before it. Owen watched the compound flow into the tissue surrounding Silver's brain. Watch it spread through neural pathways that controlled memory, personality, everything that made Silver herself. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then Silver's body arched upward, defying gravity despite her massive size. Her wings spread fully for the first time in days, filling the cave with white membrane. Her claws gouged the stone. Her tail smashed against the walls and she screamed, not in pain this time, This was different. This was a sound of pure defiance, of rage against death itself. It echoed across the wasteland, rolling through the crystal formations, carrying for kilometers in every direction. In the colony, people stopped what they were doing. They turned toward the wasteland, hearing that scream, and wondered if it meant death or life. In the cave, Owen held on to Silver's neck as her body convulsed. Reed worked frantically to stabilize her vital signs to keep her heart from giving out under the stress. "Stay with us," Owen said, his voice lost in the noise. "Stay with us, Silver, please." The convulsions lasted for 20 minutes, then slowly they began to ease. Silver's wings folded, her body lowered back to the ground. Her breathing was rapid but steady. Owen checked the scanner with shaking hands. The parasites near her brain were dead, all of them. Compound had worked perfectly, destroying the infection without damaging the surrounding tissue. Silver was alive, her brain was intact. They had done it. Owen, Reed said urgently. "Look at this." She pointed to a different monitor, one showing overall parasite distribution. Owen stared at the readout, not quite believing what he saw. The compound had spread farther than expected. The injection near her brain had pushed medication through her entire nervous system. Parasites throughout her body were dying, not just in the targeted cluster. "Is that what I think it is?" Owen asked. "The systemic effect we were hoping for." Reed's voice was filled with wonder. The third injection pushed her over the threshold. Her immune system is recognizing the parasites as foreign now, attacking them alongside the medication. "Owen, she's going to make it. She's actually going to make it." Owen sank to his knees beside Silver's head. Exhaustion hit him all at once. 3 days of tension releasing. In a single moment, he pressed his forehead against her scales and let himself cry. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for holding on." Silver's eye opened. It was clearer than it had been in days. "Did we succeed?" "Yes." Owen could barely speak through the tears. "Yes, we succeeded." "Good." Silver's eye closed again. "Then I believe I will sleep now. Proper sleep without pain." Within minutes, her breathing had evened out. Deep, steady, healthy. Reed checked her vital signs and smiled. "She's stable. Actually stable, not just barely hanging on. The fever is breaking. Oh, and she's going to be fine." Outside the cave, dawn was breaking. The 4th day since treatment began. The day everything changed. Silver slept for 16 hours straight. Owen and Reed took turns keeping watch, monitoring her recovery with careful attention. Every hour that passed showed improvement. Her fever dropped to normal levels. Her breathing grew stronger. The tremors that had racked her body for days finally stopped. When she woke, her golden eyes were clear and focused. "I feel strange," she said. Owen, who had been dozing in a chair, jerked awake. "Strange how? Pain, dizziness?" "No." Silver carefully moved her head, testing her range of motion. "I feel good. I had forgotten what it was like to exist without pain." She flexed her wings, extending them fully. "How long was I infected?" 3 weeks, you said. 3 weeks of growing agony. Before that, smaller eggs I dismissed as age. Silver stood up slowly, her movements uncertain at first, then growing steadier. "I may have been living with early-stage infection for months. This clarity, this absence of pain, it is like being young again." Reed ran her scanner over Silver's body. a smile growing on her face. Remarkable. The parasites are completely gone. Your neural tissue is regenerating. There will be some residual damage, probably. Some numbness in your extremities for a few weeks, but nothing permanent. You saved my life. Silver looked from Reed to Owen. Both of you, I do not have words sufficient to express my gratitude. You don't need words, Owen said. Your family, this is what family does. Silver lowered her massive head until she was eye level with Owen. Then, I am the luckiest creature in the galaxy to have found a family when I thought I would die alone. A sound from outside the cave made them all freeze. Voices. Many voices growing closer. Owen moved to the cave entrance and looked out. What he saw made his breath catch. A crowd had gathered in the crystal wastes, at least 50 people. Human and Sarathi, standing in the morning sun, and at the front of the crowd, looking stern and angry, was High Speaker Crimson Wing with his council. This is going to be trouble, Owen muttered. He walked out of the cave to face them. Reed followed, positioning herself beside him. Behind them, Silver emerged slowly, her white scales gleaming in the sunlight. The crowd fell silent, every eye fixed on Silver, on the outcast who should have been dead. Crimson Wing's scales seemed to darken with anger. What have you done, human? I saved her life, Owen said simply. That's what I did. You had no right. The council's decision was clear. We would not waste resources on an aberration. Good thing I didn't ask for your resources then. Owen crossed his arms. I used human medicine, human knowledge, human determination, and it worked. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Several young Sarathi pushed forward, including Verdant. They were looking at Silver with something like wonder. She is alive, Verdant said, her voice carrying across the wasteland. The Thornspine parasites are cured. A human did what all our healers said was impossible. Impossible for good reason. Crimson Wing's voice boomed. This human has experimented on an intelligent being. Without authorization, he has violated a dozen galactic medical ethics codes. He has interfered with natural order. Natural order, Owen's voice was quiet but hard. You mean your prejudice? You are content to let her die because she looks different, because her scales are white instead of colored? That's not natural order. That's cruelty. You know nothing of our culture. Human albinism in Sarathi has always been a sign of ill fortune. For 300 years this creature has brought misfortune to those around her. I'm standing right here, Silver said, her voice cutting through the argument like a blade. If you wish to speak of me, High Speaker, you might do me the courtesy of addressing me directly. Crimson Wing turned to her, and for a moment something like surprise crossed his face. He had probably never heard Silver speak in public before. She had been silent for so long, accepting her exile without protest. You should have died with dignity, Crimson Wing said. Instead, you allowed this human to defile you with his experiments. Dignity? Silver took a step forward. Her full size was impressive when she chose to display it. You speak to me of dignity, you who cast me out as a hatchling for something I could not control, you who let your own people die from parasites rather than admit you did not have all the answers. We have our ways, our traditions. Your traditions are hollow. Silver's voice grew stronger. I have lived 347 years in exile. I have watched your precious traditions hurt others like me, others who were different I have seen young ones hidden away by their families, seen the elderly abandoned when they became inconvenient. And I said nothing because I believed I deserved my exile. She spread her wings wide, the morning sun shone through the white membranes, creating a halo effect that made her look almost divine. But this human showed me something your traditions never could: compassion without condition, love without judgment. He saw worth in me when my own kind saw only a curse, and because of him I live, not just survive, live. The crowd was completely silent now. Even Crimson Wing seemed at a loss for words. If you want to charge him with crimes, Silver continued, then charge me as well. I consented to the treatment. I chose this path and I would choose it again every time. Verdant stepped forward from the crowd. I stand with the human and the outcast. Another young Sarathi joined her, as do I then. Another and another. Within moments, a dozen young Sarathi had separated themselves from the crowd, forming a line between Owen and the council. This is rebellion, Crimson Wing said, but his voice had lost its certainty. This is evolution, Verdun replied. The Sarathi have been stagnant for 1,000 years. We cling to traditions that no longer serve us. We exile our different ones. We refuse to adapt. We reject new ideas. And where has it gotten us? We are a proud people with a long history. We are a dying people with no future. Another young Sarathi said, our birth rates decline, our youth leave for other worlds. Then why? Because we cannot imagine a society built on anything other than conformity. The human shows us another way. Verdun said he crossed species lines to save someone he loved. He broke every rule we would have followed, and because of it he achieved the impossible. That is not a crime. That is inspiration. Crimson Wing looked around at his council. The other members seemed uncertain now, glancing between the young protesters and the crowd. Public opinion was shifting, and they could all feel it. The Galactic Medical Authority will still want a full report. One of the council members said quietly. The humans' methods must be documented, tested, verified. Of course, Reed spoke up for the first time. We have complete records of the treatment, every step, every dosage, every result. We're happy to share everything with the medical community. And if other Sarathi become infected, another council member asked, could this treatment be replicated? Yes, Owen said. It would need to be adjusted for individual physiology, but the basic approach should work. We've proven that thornspine parasites can be cured. No Sarathi has to die from them anymore. That changed everything. Owen could see it in the faces around him. A cure for the most feared disease on Divan 7. Treatment that could save hundreds, maybe thousands of lives. Crimson Wing saw it too. His expression shifted from anger to calculation. The council will need time to discuss this matter to determine the proper course of action. While you discuss, Silver said, I will remain here. I have no desire to return to your settlements. This wasteland has been my home for centuries. It suits me. And I'll be staying with her. Owen added, she needs monitoring for the next few weeks, and I want to make sure there are no complications. Crimson Wing looked like he wanted to argue, but the crowd was too large, too mixed, too public for him to push the issue. He was trapped by his own political instincts. Very well, he said stiffly, but this matter is not concluded. There will be consequences for this irregularity. He turned and left his council, following but several of the council members glanced back at Silver, their expressions thoughtful. After they were gone, the crowd began to disperse, but many of them, especially the young Sarathi, stayed behind. They approached Silver cautiously, respectfully, like pilgrims approaching a shrine. "May I touch your scales?" one young Sarathi asked. "I have heard albinos are cursed." "But you do not feel cursed." Silver lowered her head, allowing the young one to place a claw on her scales. "I am no different from you except in color, but you survived the impossible." "No," Silver corrected gently. "A human who refused to accept the impossible saved me. That is different." More young Sarathi came forward. They asked questions about the treatment, about Owen, about what it felt like to be cured. Silver answered patiently, showing more warmth than Owen had ever seen from her. Verdant stayed after the others left. She looked at Owen with serious eyes. "You have started something here," she said. "The old ways are being questioned. The council's authority is challenged. Change is coming to the Sarathi, whether Crimson Wing likes it or not." "I didn't mean to start a revolution," Owen said. "I just wanted to save her. The best revolutions always start with love," Verdant replied. She touched her claws to her chest in a Sarathi gesture of respect. "Thank you for showing us what we could be." As the sun climbed higher, Owen sat beside Silver's cave entrance. Reed had returned to the colony to file her medical reports and get some real sleep. The wasteland was quiet again, just Owen and Silver, like it had been for 5 years. "Do you regret it?" Silver asked. "Attention, the conflict with the council?" Owen thought about it. "No. I'd do it all again, even knowing what it might cost you, especially knowing that." Silver was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You know what I find most remarkable about humans? What? You are such a young species. You have been in the galaxy for barely a generation, yet you do things that ancient races would never consider. You love fiercely. You fight against impossible odds. You refuse to accept that some things cannot be changed." She turned her golden eye toward him. "You are reckless and impulsive and gloriously, beautifully alive in a way that older species have forgotten how to be. Is that a compliment?" "It is the highest compliment I know how to give." Owen smiled. "Then I'll take it." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the crystal formation sparkle in the sun. Somewhere in the colony, reports were being filed. Somewhere in council chambers, heated debates were happening. Somewhere in the galaxy, the news was spreading that the incurable had been cured. But here in this moment there was just a human and a dragon, a son and a mother, 2 outcasts who had found family in the most unlikely place, and that was enough. 3 months had passed since Silver's recovery. The crystal waste looked different now. What had once been an empty, hostile place had become something else entirely. Owen stood outside his new research station, watching the morning activity. The building was modest, made from local materials and human engineering. It housed a medical facility, a laboratory, and living quarters for himself and visiting researchers. Solar panels caught the light of Draven 7's twin suns, powering equipment that hummed quietly in the background. But the building was not what made this place different. It was the people. A young Sarathi named Bronze was carefully measuring parasitic samples in the lab, his movements precise under Owen's Training 2 human medical students from the colony were learning Sarathi. Physiology, their notebooks filled with observations. Dr. Reed visited twice a week to check on ongoing studies and to simply spend time with Silver, who she had grown fond of. And there were the visitors. They came every day now, Sarathi from across Draven 7, traveling to the wasteland to see the albino who had survived. Some came out of curiosity, some came seeking medical advice, some came because they, too, were outcasts, different in ways their society did not accept, and they wanted to meet someone who understood. Silver handled it with grace. She sat near her cave entrance most days, speaking with visitors, sharing her story, offering quiet wisdom earned through centuries of isolation. She never turned anyone away. Owen checked his data pad, reviewing the day's schedule. 3 patients scheduled for parasite treatment, all in early stages of infection. The treatment protocol he had developed was now being used across the planet. The mortality rate for thornspine parasites had dropped from 100% to less than 10% in just 3 months. The Galactic Medical Authority had been very interested in his work, very interested indeed. Owen Bronze called from the lab entrance. Transmission from the authority is coming through. He wanted to be present for it. Owen hurried inside. The main screen showed the seal of the Galactic Medical Authority, then switched to show a dignified alien with gray skin and multiple eyes. Dr. Kelly's the head of the Xenoparasitology Division. Dr. Blake Kelly said formally, "Thank you for making time for this call." Of course, Owen replied. He still was not used to being called doctor. His veterinary degree from Earth had suddenly gained a new prestige once his treatment proved successful. "I am contacting you with an official announcement," Kelly's continued. "The authority has completed its review of your thornspine parasite treatment protocol. We have tested it on 14 different species with compatible biology. The success rate is remarkable." Owen's heart raced. "And the authority is formally adopting your treatment as the standard protocol for parasitic neural infections across 12 species. Your methodology is being added to our medical database, and we would like to offer you a position as senior researcher in our Xenoparasitology division." The lab went silent. Brun stared at Owen with wide eyes. The human students looked equally shocked. "That's a very generous offer," Owen said carefully, "but I'll have to decline." Kelly's multiple eyes blinked in surprise. "You decline? This position would give you resources beyond anything available on Draven 7. You could work with the greatest medical minds in the galaxy." "I'm sure I could," Owen agreed. "But my place is here. There's too much work to do, and I'm not leaving Silver, the Sarathi outcast." Kelly's made a note. "On some unseen device, we have heard about your unusual bond." "Very well. Authority respects your decision, though we believe it is short-sighted. However, we will still be adopting your treatment protocol. You should know that early estimates suggest it will save approximately 30,000 lives per year across known space." 30,000 lives. Number was staggering. "That's good," Owen said quietly. "That's what matters." After the transmission ended, Bronze approached him. "You turned down the Galactic Medical Authority. Do you know how many researchers would kill for that opportunity?" "Probably a lot," Owen admitted, "but opportunities don't matter much if you're not where you're supposed He walked outside and found Silver where he had left her, speaking with a group of young Sarathi. They were listening with rapt attention as she described the history of the crystal wastes, and here Silver was saying, the ancient Sarathi built their first settlement on Divin 7, before the council, before the traditions that now govern us. Our ancestors simply lived. They accepted all colors, all forms, all differences. What changed? One of the young ones asked. Fear, Silver replied. Fear of the unknown, fear of standing out, fear that difference might mean weakness, so they created rules to enforce sameness, and over centuries those rules became tradition, and tradition became law. But you're changing that, Verdun said. She had become Silver's most frequent visitor, often bringing others who wanted to hear the outcast's perspective. By surviving, by being visible, you're showing us those traditions are wrong. No, Silver corrected gently, I am simply living. Owen is the one who changed things. He looked at tradition and said, this is wrong. Then he acted on that belief. Owen waited until the visitors left. Before approaching, Silver turned her golden eyes toward him, and he saw contentment there, a peace that had not existed 3 months ago. Big news, Owen said, settling onto a flat rock beside her. The Galactic Medical Authority adopted the treatment protocol they estimate it will save 30,000 lives a year. That is significant. Silver lowered her head to his level. You should be proud. They offered me a job, senior researcher position. I turned it down. Silver was quiet for a moment. You did not have to do that. Yes, I did. Owen looked out across the wasteland at the research station, at the paths being worn into the sand by daily visitors. This is where I belong with you. Building something new here. What we are building may not last, Silver warned. Crimson Wing and the old council members still resist. They speak against the changes, against the mixing of traditions. Let them speak. The young ones are listening to you now, not them. It was true. In 3 months the social landscape of Draven 7 had shifted dramatically. More young Sarathi were questioning the old ways. Mixed groups of humans and Sarathi were common now in the colony. Applications to study xenobiology had tripled, and albino Sarathi, once hidden away in shame, were being seen in public. 3 families had reached out to Silver, asking her advice on raising albino hatchlings. She had visited each one personally, assuring the parents that their children were not cursed. The council has called for a formal vote, Silver said, on whether to maintain the exile traditions. Verdant believes the vote will go against the old ways. How do you feel about that, Silver? Consider the question. Strange. I have lived with exile for so long that it has become part of my identity. To have it officially ended, to be told I may return to Sarathi society if I wish, it feels almost unreal. Will you return? No. Silver's answer was immediate and certain. This is my home, these wastes, this cave, this life I have built. I will not abandon it just because I am suddenly deemed acceptable. Good, Owen said, because I don't want to move either. They sat in silence for a while, watching the suns move across the sky. Then Silver spoke again, her voice softer. I have been thinking about something, about what comes after. After what? After me? Silver turned to look at him directly. I am old, Owen, even for a Sarathi. 347 years is long. The Parasites did damage that the treatment could not fully repair. I may have decades left, or I may have only years. Owen felt his chest tighten. Silver. Listen, she was gentle but firm. When I die, this place will still exist. Research station, the medical work, the community that is forming. Promise me you will continue it, that you will keep building this bridge between our species. I promise. Owen's voice was rough, but you're not dying anytime soon. You're healthy, strong. I am also realistic. Silver touched his shoulder with one claw, the gesture affectionate. You gave me a gift beyond life, Owen. You gave me purpose in my final years. These months have been richer than centuries that came before. Whatever time I have left, I will spend it well. A commotion from the direction of the colony drew their attention. A vehicle was approaching, moving fast across the wasteland. It pulled up near the research station, and Dr. Reed jumped out, her expression urgent. Owen, we have an emergency. A Sarathi juvenile was just brought to the colony with advanced thornspine infection. The parents refused treatment at first, believed the traditional ways, but they've changed their minds. They're asking for you. Owen was already moving. How advanced? Very. The child has maybe 24 hours. Get my equipment loaded. I'll need to treat on site. Owen turned back to Silver. I have to go, I know. Silver's eyes were bright. Go save another life, my son. I will be here when you return. The treatment of the juvenile Sarathi took 18 hours. The child's name was Crimson, and she was barely 10 years old in human terms. The parasites had spread through most of her nervous system by the time Owen began treatment, but the protocol worked. By dawn, Crimson was sleeping peacefully, her vital signs stable, the parasites dying throughout her body. Her parents, who had watched the entire treatment with terrified eyes, approached Owen as he packed his equipment. Thank you, the mother said, her voice breaking. We almost let her die because of tradition, because the council said treatment was unnatural. Letting her die would have been unnatural, Owen replied. He was exhausted, running on stimulants and willpower again. Love is natural. And GT, fighting for your children is natural. Everything else is just rules we made up. The outcast, the father said. Silver. Scale. Is it true that humans and Sarathi can form genuine bonds? That species does not matter. It's true, Owen confirmed. Silver is my mother in every way that counts, and she taught me that family is about choice, not blood. The parents looked at each other. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Then the mother said, when our daughter wakes, may we bring her to meet Silver. Scale. We would like her to know that being different is not a curse. Silver would like that very much. By the time Owen returned to the research station, word had spread. Another life saved, another child who would grow up because a human refused to accept the impossible. Silver was waiting for him. She did not say anything, just moved aside to make room for him to collapse against her warm scales. Owen leaned into her, feeling the steady rhythm of her breathing, the quiet strength that had sustained her through centuries. 30,000 lives a year, Silver said quietly, plus one young Sarathi named Crimson, plus however many more you will save in the years to come. That is quite a legacy for someone who just wanted to help one outcast dragon. I still just want to help one outcast dragon, Owen mumbled, half asleep already. Silver rumbled with quiet laughter, "Sleep. Little human, I will watch over you." As Owen drifted off, his last thought was simple and true. He had come to Draven 7, running from loneliness, searching for purpose, hoping to find a place where he fit. He had found all of that. And more. He had found family. He had found meaning. He had found home. And it had all started with one simple choice: to see worth where others saw curse, to offer help where others offered judgment, to love across the boundaries that others refused to cross. In the end, that was what made humans special in the galaxy, not their technology, not their adaptability, not their stubborn refusal to accept impossible. It was their capacity to care, to fight for those who could not fight for themselves, to build bridges where others built walls, and sometimes that was enough to change an entire world. Years later, when historians studied the social revolution that transformed Sarathi society, they would point to many factors: the adoption of human medical techniques, the rise of young progressive leaders, the gradual decline of the old council's influence. But those who were there, who witnessed the beginning, knew the truth. It started with a human who loved his dragon mother and a dragon who loved her human son. Everything else followed from